Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to It's Rainmaking Time. This is Kim Greenhouse. It gives me great pleasure to welcome Dr. Mark Stafford and his wife Marie, who are the founders of Parrots International. Now, one of the reasons I became interested in them and what they're doing and what the organization is doing is that parrots are dear to my heart. I love parrots. And their team and themselves are dedicated to conserving endangered parrot species and improving the welfare of both companion parrots and parrots in the wild. What I also love about them is they're nonpartisan, they're above eco-politics, and they work cooperatively with people in these conservation efforts around the world for the benefit of birds. They were referred to me by somebody I love and trust very much. I really want you to welcome them with a warm heart. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Mark and Marie Stafford to It's Rainmaking Time.
Thank you, Kim.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Well, the first thing is you're doing so many unusual things. One is you're doing Dharma together. You're working collaboratively on this wonderful calling to help the birds. And I think that that's already unusual, where a husband and wife team can come together, any people that are together, the way you're together to do what you're doing. The other thing that I think was also very interesting is that not only do you do symposiums and all of these projects, but you have a species database and information registry on your site at parrotsinternational.org. And I'd like you to talk a little bit about that.
Well, what we've tried to do is bring photos and videos from field, from the conservation projects we work with, and have them available on our website so that people can get an idea of what these endangered parrots are all about, the habitat they live in, and the pressures that are exerted on them, and what the possible solutions may be to help bring some of these species back from the brink of extinction.
I think it's interesting to note how many are not only extinct, but extinct in the wild, critically endangered, vulnerable, near-threatened, and all these distinctions that you make with all these birds. How do you get those stats?
The stats are actually created by BirdLife International. They create what's called their red list, which rates birds on the basis of how many breeding pair are left in the wild. And the rating system itself is done by this international team at BirdLife International. And they rate from extinct to extinct in the wild, down through critically endangered, and vulnerable, and least concern. And that is their standardized rating system. And that's used by conservation workers and projects to determine where and how funds could be most effectively used for each of the species.
Marie, you've taken a lot of the photos on the site of these parrots.
Yes.
And obviously you're a wonderful photographer. Do you travel a lot to do this? Have you both traveled together a lot, or do you sometimes have to split up and you travel alone, or how does it work?
I think there was one time that we didn't travel together because I got very ill. But other than that, we travel together and take pictures at the same time. A lot of times Mark is taking video and I'm shooting with the camera. So we have both pictures, you know.
Don't you fall in love with these birds while you're shooting them?
We really do. And we first fell in love because we started out with pet birds, and then we wanted to see what our birds were all about, and we found out how endangered some of them were. Like the hyacinth macaw, we found out that there was more hyacinth macaws when we had our first macaw than there were in the wild. They were more in captivity than there were in the wild. And then we went to visit those projects, and we became very good friends with the woman, Neva Gedges. Dr. Gedges has tripled the population in the short time that she's been working with them, and she's done amazing things to help these birds survive.
How is the habitat and weather changes, including the air, change what's left of the birds, of the parrots?
The greatest pressures on the parrot are habitat change, not so much climate change at this point, because parrots are relatively mobile as long as their habitat is intact. But it's mainly the pressures for most of them. It's habitat loss and the pressures from illegal poaching or removal of birds from the wild. There's other parrots where it may be an introduced predator that was not part of their natural habitat as they evolved with their natural history. But in general, the two largest pressures on parrots are habitat loss and what we would call poaching or removal from the wild for the pet trade.
Now, Mark, I know that you're a dentist, and so there's this whole other side of your life. And Marie, I know that you work with Mark in the practice. How did you get into being involved with parrots? I know you talked to Marie about having personal parrots is the lead into it, but you guys are deep in this.
Oh yeah, we're so deep in it. It was about 20 years ago when we ended up with our first bird, and we didn't seek out to have a bird. We were just walking to lunch one day, and a little bird shop opened up in our neighborhood near work, and we decided we only had 15 minutes for lunch on most days back then, and so we would visit the birds, and we ended up with one of these little birds, and we thought he was so amazing. And then we ended up with another little bird and another bird. We found that they all had different personalities, and then we went to figure out, we started traveling and figured out where these birds were from, how they lived, what they should be eating, and we were just so shocked at what we found, that people were still killing them. They were shooting them with slingshots. Some of them areas were so poor that people would eat them. I mean, all these different things that we never imagined. So we started deciding that we would try to do something for the parrots, especially the birds that were endangered. So we focused on that, and then from that we ran into all kinds of other type of birds that needed help. So basically, if we didn't have pet birds in the beginning, we probably would have never got into the birds in the wild.
You know, so many people who love birds, like all of us, would never necessarily feel that they could empower them directly the way both of you are. And the thing is that many of us, like, I love birds, but I wouldn't know the first thing of how to go about empowering them. So how did you figure that out?
Well, I'd say the biggest step to understanding what's going on is to take the leap and visit a working conservation project, a field project. So that was our first step, is to visit a project, and we were sold at that point. We thought that parrot conservation was amazing. The people that are working in the field are essentially dedicating their lives to live in, many of them to live in forced poverty almost, in areas with no electricity, no hot water, no decent facilities. But these people have educated themselves, they have PhDs, and they have gone in the field, and they're actually donating their entire lives to save these birds. So for us, for Marie and I, those people are our heroes. All we try to do is help them do what they've dedicated their life to. So our task has been to find good, effective parrot conservation projects and support them, and then identify parrots in need of help and try to develop projects. And that's been our main focus. That's one of our I would say our main mission statement. But our other mission statement is education and the welfare of companion parrot birds, but education of people to understand what they can or can't do. And so I think that's, and to answer your question, the first step is to actually see if it's possible to visit parrots in the wild, and then see what you could possibly do to help out. Largely, what these people need, the field projects need most, is funding. So we spend a lot of our time trying to deliver presentations at bird clubs and symposiums and conferences and give these projects exposure.
In terms of the projects, so